Hello, everybody. This is Megan,
And this is Alana.
and welcome to Tea Time Crimes.
Halloween edition.
Still got it.
Still got it.
All right. Hello, hello. Welcome back. We've missed you.
Who?
Who? Our listeners.
Oh yeah, we really did.
Well, I did.
I've been chatting with them on IG.
I miss him. Alana said, Who do I miss? She's here today after unloading a huge moving truck. She got her Tea Time Crime shirt inside out.
Yeah,
She
it's
stuffed
a
herself in
mess.
a closet.
Stuck in a closet. Just kidding. We don't like R. Kelly. Get out.
It's complete chaos, and she's here anyway. So I've missed you as well, madam.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah.
What? Okay, again, see that you've
Just
missed
kidding.
me. So
We haven't done this for a while.
I know.
I'm hunching.
Well, you are sitting on the floor of a closet.
Yeah.
So give us a quick update. How'd the move go?
It went. We barely escaped the hurricane that hit New Orleans, so that was fun. Yeah, Chris drove up the big box truck, which was a load of fun for him. I drove up the animals, and we all made it, and it's beautiful here. So
You're a New Englander now. Welcome.
I'm here.
It's wicked awesome.
It's wicked cool.
I think at this point my Southern accent is better than my New England accent.
I mean, that makes sense.
I've
You've been in
switched.
New England for a long time.
I know. And none of my family has much of a New England accent.
It is fun to listen because not everybody has it here.
No, they don't. My dad adds R's to the absolute end of everything, but
Yeah.
other than that, he doesn't. Like, I'm surprised he doesn't call you Alana. Maybe he does. We'll have to listen. All right. Well, do you have a tea in the closet? I didn't even ask.
I do.
I can't believe you didn't spill it during that setup.
It's a birthday tea.
A birthday tea? Yes, because you had a birthday while we were gone.
You got me some teas, and it's a very high quality tea company. It's Harney and Sons Fine Teas.
That's right.
They always have the best stuff. This one is the Black Cask Bourbon, smoky black tea with vanilla and caramel, and there's 20 sachets in here.
What episode was that where you went on a sachet
remember.
run? Oh, so good.
I don't remember. But what I appreciate, I can't talk. What I appreciate about this is that they have their own rating system on their box.
Hey, they got their own Alana.
They have a briskness. Does your mouth pucker?
Yuck.
Body. Does the tea fill your mouth?
Yuck.
And aroma. Does the tea have a robust scent? So, we're on the same wavelength. So I appreciate that about
You're
them.
grossing me out.
God, there's so many sides to this box. One would say 4.
I was going to say, is it? It's a box. I don't know.
The character of this tea is prominent notes of vanilla, caramel, atop a base of smoky black tea. Perfect for sipping slow and steady, as a bourbon should be.
Oh.
Spoiler, I hate bourbon.
Oh, perfect. Well, this should go over well.
Oh my God, I just saw Tessie's paws go underneath the closet door.
Tessie's used to be a part of this recording.
Oh, baby.
If Slappy's hand goes under the door, I'm out.
Oh my God, I'll pee my pants.
Yeah, I'm done.
And then I'll stomp his face.
Took a rough turn.
So black tea, and you know what makes it smoky? Can you remember the smoky tea that Sherlock used to drink? The Lapsang Souchong?
No.
That's in here too. So.
Oh, I was wondering what made it smoky.
Yeah.
I don't like smoky typically.
I'm
not drinking it.
It's not my favorite either, but it can go real well. But we both don't really eat barbecue, so that might be
well, we're not meat eaters, so that really
All right.
really makes it hard.
It smells very smoky. Strong on the smoke.
Okay.
Ow. Just hit myself. Fine. Everything's going fine. Oh, God.
Sarah Winchester, is that
I
you?
cannot move my limbs, otherwise I will hit something.
You're really stuffed in there.
Ooh.
Oh, she
It
gave
does.
it shimmy.
It tastes like the how do you say it? The Lapsang Soshang tea with bourbon in it.
Okay.
Without the whiskey, which is what I hate. I don't like whiskey. I'm sorry to who had made it? The Scottish?
You've already offended them enough with your accents. I think you need to.
I don't think I've ever attempted a Scottish one.
Yes, you have.
That's
Absolutely.
beyond my reach.
No, you've
Okay.
absolutely dropped into Jamie's voice once or twice.
Claire.
There it is. See, already doing it.
All right. This is, we've talked about it before. I love a tea that goes all the way. If you're going to do flavors, do flavors. Go all the way. I mean, there's no other thing to say but a smoky thumbs up because it hits the smoke hard. It just it's like liquid smoke and it pours in your mouth.
Oh, it's a good image.
There's a nice bourbon well at the bottom and there's just smoke coming in. It's great.
That's a good fall Halloween.
It is. That's what I'm saying. That's why I picked it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I picked out of the ones that you gave me.
Right. Yeah. The others were pretty delicate. Yeah. They'll have to wait till November, I think.
Actually, we'll see.
Actually. Okay. We'll see. But if you've never been to our Halloween edition, it's really the exact same thing, except.
Oh, God. I forgot to prepare to be scared.
No, you won't be scared for it. Well, you might be scared for this one. We like to do true crimes that have a little bit of some sort of twist. Sometimes it's a supernatural twist. Sometimes it's a Halloween theme. Sometimes it's a stretch. Sometimes every once in a while I'll do straight haunting. I did that once,
I hate it.
and Alana was earmuffed for half of the episode.
It's true.
So, I try not to scare her too badly. But yes, today is our first in the spooky edition for the month. And today we're traveling to Vermont.
Oh.
Okay, so here we go. The Mysterious Bennington Triangle is known for alien activity, mysterious murders, Bigfoot sightings, inexplicable paranormal activity, and unsolved disappearances.
Well, where is it so I cannot go? I don't want to be fucking hiking and trip into the fucking triangle.
It is between the small towns of Bennington, Shaftesbury, Somerset, Woodford, and Glastonbury in Vermont. And it covers only about 100 square miles. Originally, I accidentally typed 100 square feet. And I was like, something didn't seem right about that.
Keep it contained.
I was like, well, that's a large closet. Finally, it dawned on me what I'd written. But it's a little bigger than that. And the town of Glastonbury has long since been abandoned, which doesn't help things. Now, the local legends date back as far as folks can remember, with Native Americans believing that Glastonbury Mountain, which is at the center of it all, was cursed, and they would only approach it to bury the dead. That spot was said to be where the four winds would meet, making the weather unpredictable and dangerous.
Interesting.
So, don't go there.
Don't go wind. What is it? Kite wind surfing?
I don't know what you're saying.
Paragliding.
Is that what's happening in the early days?
Could be.
Just strapping folks.
There's no TV.
Yeah. Just give it a try. Oof, that's where the four winds meet. Bad choice. When colonial settlers moved to the area, they also struggled, and they seemed to suffer an alarmingly higher rate of illness, death, and madness. By the 1800s, now hold on, I need to pause because you're going to poo-poo everything I'm about to say. So just hold your absolute disgust and disbelief.
Fine.
But by the 1800s, the stories of danger only grew when a stagecoach traveling through the area was attacked and turned over by what everyone in the stagecoach described as Bigfoot. Her face right now, folks. She hates it. The Bennington Monster is what it was called. It was a 6-foot hairy man, and it threw over their stagecoach, all right? Despite this being the first reported attack, Native American legend also told stories of bear men tracking people in the woods, leaving only their footprints as evidence, and when they'd catch up to the humans, they would crush them to death. I don't know what makes that different from just being a regular bear, but I'm assuming it would have had more of a human face. I don't know. It didn't say. Thoughts?
Hairy men. Bears who maybe got some
Hairy men.
sap stuck on their face and it ripped off, and so they looked like they had more bear skin. The bears were waxing, and the Native Americans didn't like it.
There was a whole bear salon up in the woods, and it wasn't a big hit. Well, but could a hairy 6-foot man flip over a stagecoach with people in it? Could you? I don't know how.
I bet he had help.
What? They're hairy men? There's a whole formation of them in the woods?
You know what? You got to have some angle on recruiting.
They go down to the towns and like just check out, like, that kid looks pretty promising.
I mean, you could get one person who looks the hairiest, and then the rest of them are like flip and then run.
Oh, it's like beat sales in the office. You put like the best beats up front.
Yes, correct.
So you just put the hairiest gentleman up front.
Yeah.
And then why are these men knocking over a stagecoach, not robbing it, and then just running?
Maybe they were high on mushrooms.
Oh, boy.
I found a lot of mushrooms in my woods, by the way. I'm very excited to identify them all.
Don't.
I'm not going to eat them. They're not. I've seen none that are edible yet, but I'm psyched. I said, Chris, don't step on my mushroom when we were on the dog walk.
Oh, boy. Well, that's a problem for a different day. But in terms of the hairy gentleman, I feel like your explanation is just as crazy as this one. That there's an animal that used to exist that we never discovered that lived deep in the woods. I think that's as plausible as a bear waxing its face with tree sap. So I just want that to go on record. Anyway. So sightings of this creature would continue through the 1800s, but the town of Glastonbury was trying to boost their population when 2 additional violent murders occurred.
Oh, no.
I know. A sawmill worker named Henry McDowell, although that was later learned to be an alias, attacked John Crowley in April of 1892, bludgeoning him to death.
Oh.
And then he was sent to the Waterbury Asylum, where he soon escaped by hiding in a coal truck and riding it right off the grounds. He was never seen again.
Whoa.
Some say he just returned back to the forest.
Whoa.
Maybe to join his hair growth. It's like Rogaine for the creatures. Anyway, I don't know that he was hairy. That did not say. A few years later, in the fall of 1897, hunter John Harbour was shot to death on the opening day of deer season, and his murder remains unsolved. Probably somebody accidentally killed him and didn't come forward. But anyway, it was weird. Despite the eerie legends and the back-to-back acts of violence, Glastonbury's still like, hey, we're going to grow this. We're going to make it a tourist attraction. We're going to expand the railroad tracks and put a trolley on it and bring people up because it was so steep.
Oh my God, it's like that ride at Disneyland.
Hairy Man Adventures?
I was going to say the Abercrombie. Nope.
Unfetched.
Abominable?
Yeah, that's him. Sure.
Abominable.
Oh, yeah, it's getting better. All right, Disney, feel free to reach out to us for marketing ideas. So they spend all this money building this trolley to bring up. They have like one season there where it's kind of a resort vibe. And then a flood just destroys it all.
Oh, no.
Basically washes it all away, all the work that they've done.
And stuff.
The slides. They didn't turn it into a water park.
No, landslides.
Oh, yes, landslide. Now I'm hearing Stevie Nicks. We move on. By the 1900s, there were only 3 official people living in the town.
What?
It was a couple and
a throuple.
And their mother. One of their mothers. They weren't brother and sister.
Hopefully not a throuple then.
Was eventually unincorporated and just left as is.
Oh my God. Do people like go spelunk?
If they want to disappear, they do. Oh. So having a ghost town at the center of all this did nothing to help shift the vibe.
Yeah.
And starting in the 1940s, mysterious disappearances began happening. And this is where we're going to spend most of our time.
Okay.
Now, often the first person listed as having gone missing was an experienced hunter, 74-year-old Mitty Rivers, in November of 1945.
That's a great name.
I know, isn't it? It's so good. But 2 years before Mitty, Carl Herrick was out hunting. Now, Carl and his cousin Henry were together, but eventually separated. I don't think it was intentional, but maybe. Henry made it back to camp without issue, but Carl never did. The search started immediately. Carl was missing for 3 days before his body was recovered. And get this, cause of death, Squeezing.
That's not a cause of death.
His ribs had been broken and punctured his lungs.
So he not drowned, ran out of air.
No, intense pressure was wrapped around him so hard that his ribs cracked and then punctured his lungs. Now, something this eerie and scary leads to stories running wild, but an article in the Bennington Banner in 1943 stated this kind of scientific explanation. They stated that bear tracks were found near Carl's body, and his rifle was leaning against a nearby tree. So the assumption was that Carl shot a bear, thought he had killed it, put the rifle down, and then approached the bear and was attacked.
Yeah.
The paranormal theory, of course, is the Bennington Monster, a.k.a. bear men, a.k.a. hairy men, a.k.a. bears who wax their face. Now, most people believe Carl is not included in this string of disappearances because his body was recovered so quickly. But when your cause of death is literally squeezed, I'm going to mention it in a paranormal episode. You know what I mean? That is so creepy. Anyway.
Bears are heavy.
Was he just on his back? Did maybe Carl go to put the bear on his back to carry him back to camp and then the bear just crushed him?
Bears are way too heavy to do that.
Yeah, they're like 400 pounds, right?
Yeah, he can't do that.
So how is he going to get it back?
Chop it up.
Ew. So for most sources, like I said, the string of missing cases will start with Mitty Rivers. Because like Carl, he too was out hunting with a large group. And when he became separated from his son-in-law, he was like, hey, I'll meet you back at camp for lunch. Mitty had spent hours in these woods and was considered an experienced outdoorsman. So no one was concerned.
Mm-hmm.
But when he didn't return by 3, the group backtracked and began searching for him. He was less familiar with Bigfoot Hollow, or also known as Hell's Hollow, and the group knew not to go over that ridge because it was too dangerous. So the sun started to set. The group contacted the sheriff because they couldn't find him. Despite a widespread search with many volunteers, Mitty Rivers was never found. He'd last been seen in a red and black plaid hunting coat and matching hat.
Well, he's dead now, no matter what.
You are just bringing the positivity.
No, I'm just saying, like, don't go searching for him.
I don't think anybody is. I'm saying it's weird, though, if somebody were to fall in the woods and you search that quickly, I mean, hours to minutes after they fell, you would think you would find them or the body.
Yeah, but what if it's like you just like fall through brush and right onto like tree roots that are sticking up and then you can't see it from above?
Yeah, here we go. Moving on. Just over a year later, December 1st, 1946, the most mysterious of the disappearances occurred. 18-year-old Paula Welden, a student at Bennington College, went out for a walk and vanished, just like Mitty Rivers into the Bennington Triangle.
It was the man, not the bear.
Yeah, right? This is, bear man. That's not one of the options. Now, Bennington is this little Vermont town, one of the first to say no to billboards, which are now banned all throughout the state. Did you know that?
What?
Yeah, I did. When I first saw a billboard on the interstate as a kid, I was like, what is that?
Wait, what? This is crazy lore. I didn't know about this.
This isn't folklore. This is accurate.
I'm not saying folklore. I said lore. There's no billboards in Vermont?
No, you're not allowed. It takes away from the beauty of the nature.
That's nice. God,
yeah.
Louisiana's every other block.
I know. They're big down here. And they're weird things, too. Like,
it's all injury lawyers.
Or vasectomy reversals. Like stuff I'm not interested in seeing while I'm driving.
Okay.
You know, or like adult store XXX.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Blinky's.
Excuse me?
Nothing.
Okay. You seemed unusually familiar with that. Anyway, so there's no billboards is the point. And Bennington College was just outside of the downtown area, and it was laid out on hundreds of acres. The curriculum was a bit non-traditional because they would allow students to get credit for practical applications instead of just taking tests. So you could like
design. Go forage mushrooms?
Possibly. Hold on to that thought because I have a little nugget for you.
Oh.
Now, Paula had originally attended Bennington College with the hopes of earning an art degree. She'd grown up with her father and her mother, but her father was a successful industrial designer in Stamford, Connecticut. And it's thought that shaped her initial desire to have an art degree.
Okay.
But according to Paula's friends, as that first year came to an end, Paula had less interest in art and more passion for botany.
You're going to say butts.
No. Well, maybe, but she didn't mention it. Most of my background research on Paula was from the book Clueless in New England by Michael C. Dooling, and it's in the source
Oh.
notes. Check it out. In this book, Dooling quotes Paula's best friend and roommate, Elizabeth, describing Paula's interest moving away from art, and he sourced this from the case files. So Elizabeth says regarding Paula, on the field trips, she was always the first to learn the names of the plants and one who found the rare plants.
Oh.
She continued by saying, after every botany class, she would be gay and happy and enthusiastic. She would tell me with tremendous delight what she had seen on her field hikes.
God, it's me.
That's exactly what I wrote. So, 1, this is Alana. 2, it's important because this might be a motivation for why Paula's about to go out on a walk
Yeah.
in the afternoon.
Go identify plants.
Exactly. Because I've never been excited about a plant,
Um,
but if you are interested in this, it might explain why you're like, you know what? It's almost dark out, but I'm still going to head out for a walk. I feel like you would do that.
I've already done that here.
There you go. Now, Paula and her roommate Elizabeth loved the outdoors, and this was something that Elizabeth grew up being outdoorsy, and so she was kind of sharing this love with Paula, and Paula and her were vibing on it.
Oh.
They would go for hikes with other students at Bennington College, and both of the girls were a little upset when these started being called secret lovemaking sessions because they were not that
Oh.
at all, even though sometimes it was co-ed. They were legit there for the plants and the nature, and there was nothing going on. Elizabeth was very clear about that. I know. But this will matter too because Paula did not have a serious boyfriend at any point, according to her roommate, which is one of the theories that comes out about her disappearance. When she went out on dates, it was simply a social event or a good hang. It was nothing romantic. Elizabeth made a point of saying Paula disliked when any guy became, quote, pancakey with her, which I assume means like pressing up against her, you know, if they're dancing or something, which I kind of love that term, pancakey.
Doesn't
Like,
work for me.
Really? Why not?
Pancakes are stacked horizontally.
Well, I mean, hello? I don't know.
I thought you meant dancing. I don't know what they're doing dancing on the ground like that.
Maybe you need to visit Mr. Blinky's because I feel like Paula's onto something here. Anyway, the week before Paula's disappearance, there was no huge change that Elizabeth could really point to in her roommate. She went home for Thanksgiving. Paula did not. So Elizabeth went home for Thanksgiving. Paula stayed at the campus. This bummed Paula out a little bit because she was alone.
Yeah.
But instead of being depressed about it, she took that as her sign to go out and meet more people, make more friends, so she didn't have to rely on Elizabeth all the time. And she did. That Thanksgiving night, Paula actually went to a square dance with another couple. And then his brother was her date. So it was a double date, nothing serious. She had a fine time, no pancakes.
No pancakes.
The guy was a gentleman, super nice, fun, but they're not running away to get married. Just, just having a good time. By the time Elizabeth returned to campus, the two were back to their job at the dining hall that weekend. So Sunday, December 1st, Paula seemed a little down, a little off, and Elizabeth suggested that maybe she should clear her head and go for a walk after her shift ended. But Paula was covering for a coworker, so she was doing the breakfast shift and the lunch shift.
Ugh, extra pancakes.
Which means she returned back to her room around, I don't know, probably like 2 o'clock. She grabbed a quick bite to eat. She got changed. And when Elizabeth returned between 2:30 and 3, Paula was gone. And so she thought, okay, Paula went for a walk. Good. She'll be back soon. But when Paula hadn't returned by the next morning, Elizabeth was frantic. She ran to work hoping that her roommate would be there, but she wasn't. She checked the school hospital, no Paula. Then she went to get help. The college had a policy that if you were planning on being away for the night, you signed out. So you could come and go as you please, but you would sign out so that your house would know you were gone and they wouldn't worry about you. Paula had not signed out, leaving the college to assume that something had happened to her. So by Monday afternoon, Paula was officially reported missing, and her father was in Bennington by that evening. As investigators reconstructed Paula's timeline, they learned that there were several people who saw Paula after she left the safety of her dorm room. So between 2:30 and 2:45, Paula was seen walking down the Bennington College driveway in jeans, a red parka, and sneakers. and a car with 2 acquaintances noticed Paula. They slowed down, but just to wave, because the women in the car made the same assumption that Elizabeth did, that Paula looked like she was out for a walk and not that she needed a ride. So they just slowed down, gave her a wave, moved along. She was not in distress. She did not flag them for help.
Yeah.
She was just out for a walk. A few minutes later, a gas station attendant near the town saw a girl in a red coat walking. We assume that's Paula.
Mm-hmm.
Around 3, a passerby named Louis Deke Knapp picked up Paula, who was hitchhiking along Route 67A.
What? Why is she hitchhiking?
Hitchhiking was something Elizabeth and Paula had done several times before.
Oh.
She felt safe doing it, and she liked doing it because it allowed her to meet interesting people, she said.
Whoa, no thanks.
Now, the girl in the car, who was believed to be Paula, said she wanted a ride to the Long Trail entrance. Deke took her as far as his house on Woodford Road, and that was still 3 miles away. So that's why she was hitchhiking. Investigators were not sure that Deke was a credible witness because he originally described the woman in his car as wearing a brown jacket and having light brown hair, whereas Paula was blonde and wearing a bright red coat. Turns out Deke is colorblind. So they eventually were like, okay, that was probably her. Now, from here, several folks who lived along the road that leads to that long trail continue to see her walking or hitchhiking between, from that 3 to 4 time period.
Okay.
And then a man named Ernie Whitman saw Paula around 4 asking for directions to the long trail, even though it was almost dusk. And then the girl walked towards the trailhead rather than turning around.
Oh, no.
Now, like with any missing persons case, there are conflicting stories. There appeared to be somebody staying on the road that led to the trail who looked very similar to Paula. So there were a lot of eyewitnesses accounts that kind of put Paula out of the timeline. Somebody would say, no, I saw a blonde girl fitting that description at this time. And investigators believe that it was just, a lookalike. There was also a cab driver who said he dropped Paula off at a train station. Or he thought he did. Can you imagine? I always try to think back. Even this morning, I was drinking tea outside. I don't think I could identify the 10 people that walked by the house. Not really. Like, I'm not really paying attention.
Yeah.
It'd be hard. There were also people on the long trail who were coming off of the long trail to go home, and they never encountered Paula. So it's like she didn't make it to the actual long trail.
Oh.
When she left her dorm room, it was about 40 degrees. That night, the temperatures dropped to around 0. So it's not safe for her to be out. A couple later came forward saying that late that night of December 1st, they pulled over to put chains on their tires when it started snowing. And they noticed footprints in the snow that looked like they belonged to a female based on the size.
Oh.
They thought that was really odd because it was, 11, 12 o'clock at night. They followed them until they stopped and then assumed whoever it was had gotten a ride. During this time, volunteers had started searching for Paula everywhere. The college shut down so students could join the efforts.
Wow.
Rewards were offered. Police put out Paula's description, just hoping for any leads. Less than a week after Paula's disappearance, her father also vanished.
What?
He eventually called his wife to say he'd return soon.
What?
Turns out he was tracking down a tip of his own. A waitress in Fall River claimed to have seen Paula with an older man asking over and over, how do I get back to Bennington? How do I get to Bennington? I need to get to Bennington. The waitress described the young woman as dazed, which fit into one of the media's theories that Paula had suffered a head injury and had amnesia of some sort. This lead turned out to be nothing because that woman was found and it was not Paula.
Oh.
A psychic was also consulted on the case, sending Mr. Welden on another wild goose chase, hoping to find Paula alive in what she said was a shack near a bridge. This tip led to no clues and no signs of Paula. Theories of Paula running away to start a new life or be with a boyfriend were very popular. But Paula had at most $10 with her when she left, and she'd left behind an uncashed paycheck to be cashed later. And remember, her roommate is very adamant on the fact that she does not have a boyfriend.
Right.
Undergarments, which possibly were stained with blood, were found near the trailhead, but they were not kept as evidence. They were thrown away.
Why?
I don't know. There are some theories that say maybe because they were identified not to be Paula's. But this is scary when it's paired with the story of a couple who lived near the trail, saying they heard a woman screaming near their home the night Paula disappeared.
Dude.
But that couple lived almost 30 miles away from where Paula had last been seen. They're on like the other side of it.
Yeah, but if you get picked up in a car.
Yeah. Paula's family was so distressed with how the investigation was progressing because Vermont didn't really have the experience to handle something like this, and they weren't accepting help from Connecticut.
Come on.
Mr. Welden wrote a public letter expressing his concerns, and eventually state troopers from Connecticut decided to work the case on their own.
Oh, good.
Connecticut had like a very large state police force.
Okay.
So Lieutenant Edward Rundle and Officer Dorothy Scoville went to Bennington. The pair reworked the entire case from the beginning. They wanted to get their own feel for what was going on, but also notes hadn't really been taken, or at least not thoroughly.
Come on.
So they needed to piece it together. And it was during the second round of questioning that they noticed discrepancies from the Maxwell family, who lived along the road to the trail where Paula said she was headed. The mother, Viola, had a live-in boyfriend, Fred, who changed his story a couple of times, as did Viola, as did her teenage daughter. So it was hard to tell, is this just bad eyewitnesses? Is this nerves around being asked questions, or were they trying to hide something? After several interrogations, it was thought that they were hiding Viola's relationship with Fred because Viola was in the process of getting a divorce.
Oh, shit.
With no trace of Paula, Mr. Welden returned back home. And from there, he broadcast the following from a local station. Paula, if this broadcast reaches you, know that we love you. Whatever may have prompted you to leave us, if you have gone off on your own free will, be sure we will find a better answer to your problem by working this out together. Just pick up the nearest telephone and ask for me. You won't need change. The operator will reverse the charges. I'll come for you immediately, wherever you are, and bring you back home to your mother and sisters who love you so much and miss you so terribly. Lots of love from us all, Daddy.
So sad.
I know. Now, the following spring, lie detectors were given to several people who were involved. So the man who gave her a ride, who was colorblind, Viola Maxwell, Fred, the roommate, the guy she went to the dance with, just a bunch of people. Not a single test showed signs of deception.
Jeez.
Once the snow had melted, a recovery search was conducted. The Weldens came back to Bennington, but again, nothing was found. Mrs. Welden did not believe her daughter would run off and start a new life. She just didn't think that was possible or something Paula would do. She thought it was much more likely that Paula had trusted the wrong person, accepted a ride, and that person had caused her harm.
Yeah, I think so too.
In an absolute strange and callous case of coincidence, a woman matching Paula's description perfectly and using the same name as the Bennington College director who reported Paula missing was brought to a police station a year later, and police thought maybe it was Paula Welden. The girl insisted she was not Paula Welden, and Mrs. Welden had a short phone conversation with this woman and was like, "That's not my daughter."
But get your hopes up. That'd be so
I know. And it was also found later that despite looking apparently identical to Paula, she had different color eyes. So the girl was telling the truth.
People.
And I don't know what they thought was happening. Were colored contacts invented then?
I have no idea.
Were contacts invented then?
I feel like probably for the movies.
Yeah, I don't know how you'd get your hands on those.
I don't know.
Anyway, more red herrings like this came in over the years, and each time the police investigated, each time no sign of Paula, nothing. Mr. Welden later said he thinks Paula walked to the footbridge on the long trail and then would have seen how dark it was and turned around to head back to school. She would have been looking for a ride. He thinks she willingly accepted a ride, and instead of being returned, she was taken towards Manchester, where that couple heard the screams of a woman coming from a known spot for parking. To this day, Paula has never been heard from, and her remains never found. 3 years from Paula's disappearance to the day, James Tedford started his bus ride to the Veterans Hospital in Bennington. He was said to be last seen the stop before his final destination, but when the bus pulled into Bennington, he was gone, just disappeared. Obviously, rationally, chances are that James simply got off and nobody noticed him and There are some papers that reported sightings of him in Brandon, but the story grew to be incredibly supernatural. That 1 second he was in his seat as the bus approached Bennington, he vanished into thin air. Less than a year later, Paul Jepson, who was only 8 years old, was waiting for his mother in the truck. He also vanished right around 4 o'clock. Assuming he'd gotten out and started walking or exploring, like kids do, Mrs. Jepson immediately started looking and calling for him. And when she couldn't find him right away, she called her husband. Then the sheriff was brought in, and then a whole search party was brought in. His father was concerned that Paul had started walking towards the long trail, the same trail that Paula was headed to, because he kept mentioning how he wanted to see it over the last few days. Tracking dogs were brought in. Paul's scent stopped a few miles before the trailhead. The fear is, of course, that Paul was abducted right where the scent stopped, right? Put into a car. And to make matters worse, 6 patients had recently escaped from a nearby institution, and one was still at large at that time.
Oh my God.
The Jepsons also shared that Paul wasn't great at crossing the street or paying attention to traffic. The Jepsons were concerned that it could have been a hit and run. Just like the others, no sign of Paul Jepson was ever found.
Jeez.
On the heels of Paul's disappearance, 53-year-old Frida Langer went missing while hunting with her husband and cousin. The family owned a hunting camp on Glastonbury Mountain, so this is an area that they were super familiar with, just like Mitty. On the day the trio arrived at the camp, which was October 28th, 1950, Frida decided to go hunting with her cousin Herbert. Her husband Max stayed behind because he was kind of tired from the drive. It was already 3 p.m. when the pair started out, so this was not meant to be some huge excursion. This was just a chance to get a little bit of hunting in before sunset.
Okay.
Less than a mile from camp, Frida tripped and fell into a stream. Herbert started to walk Frida back so she could change, and then about 100, 150 feet from the camp, Frida said, "You know what, I got it from here. You go ahead. I'm just going to go home and get changed." Max thinks his wife is with Herbert. Herbert now thinks Frida is with Max, and they don't realize it until Herbert comes home that Frida's missing.
Herbert did it.
It's now dark. The state troopers are called in, and they search as best as they can. Just like with the others, there's no sign of Frida. Tracking dogs were able to pick up her scent, but every time they just kept looping back to the camp. Like with Paula, theories of amnesia or disorientation are considered. Because Frida was a cancer survivor, she'd successfully survived the removal of a brain tumor about 18 months prior. And since that procedure, she had fainting spells.
Oh.
And so Max, her husband, was concerned that even though they were few and far between at this point, he was afraid, what if that happened to her?
Yeah.
And then she came to and just went the totally wrong direction. Another odd parallel between Frida and Paula is that a few days into the case, one of the family members also went missing. So you remember Mr. Welden vanished for a few days, and then he was checking out that lead, he said. Well, the morning of an inquest about this disappearance, Herbert disappeared. He'd been part of a morning search party looking for Frida, separated from the group, and was found later walking along the flood dam. And this was odd, but Herbert returned to the inquest, and later both he and Max passed a polygraph. Interestingly, though, it was near the flood dam that spring that Frida's body would be found.
Yeah, Herbert.
In only a foot of water. The recovery site was 3 to 4 miles from the camp. Her death was ruled a drowning. No autopsy was done.
What?
All theories pointing toward an accident. Either she was confused and walked to the water, or fell in close to camp and was carried downstream when the water was considerably higher.
Yeah.
When they'd been there, not the foot that it was there. That was it. No foul play was thought to be involved, but the fact that she got lost 100 feet from her camp, what happened?
Yeah.
So you can imagine these almost back-to-back disappearances did nothing
freak people out,
but strengthen the folklore of the Bennington Triangle.
Yeah.
Is there a paranormal explanation for these disappearances? Is the Bennington monster or the bear man part of this? I know I told you the first reported instance was in the 1800s, but sightings of this monster are recorded all the way into the 2000s. Now, I mean,
bears are real, y'all.
That recruitment's still going. Alien abductions, lights in the skies have been reported since the 1800s and continue today. In 1984, several people saw what they described as silo-like lights in the sky above the mountain. There are also legends of a man eating stone said to swallow people whole. And it was this was a Native American legend, explaining something.
No.
I mean, there are a bunch of holes. What if you just fall into a hole? There's a bunch of mine shafts, wells.
That's what happened to Mitty.
That's what they worry about, that these
Yeah.
people just that's why they couldn't find them.
Yeah, they just vanished.
It was such common knowledge that after Frida's disappearance, there was a cartoon episode with Mickey and Goofy going to Man-Eater Mountain.
Whoa. Hey,
Yeah.
Disney.
Yeah, got full circle. There are also a few similarities between the 5 or 6 cases, depending on which ones you're looking at. Many of the victims were wearing red and disappeared between 3 and 4. That could just be a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
I mean, hunting coats are often red. It's
Yeah.
also a common color. Also, if you're probably at a higher risk of disappearing if you go out right before sunset.
Right.
And then you get lost, it's harder to find your way back. But also the book I mentioned, Clueless in New England, the full title is Clueless in New England, The Unsolved Disappearances of Paula Welden, Connie Smith, and Katherine Hull. The author discusses 2 other cases where young women, or in one case a girl, went missing while hitchhiking. And the other 2 were not in Bennington, but he wonders if those 3 disappearances could be related.
Like by the same guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And an article also came out in the Bennington Banner in 2000 that asks questions about the Weldens, because according to the article, one of the first theories given was that Paula had run away with a boy from Connecticut, but they wouldn't say his name for some reason, which seems odd.
That is weird.
It wasn't until investigators talked to the roommate Elizabeth that they were like, oh no, this girl went out for a walk.
Right.
Doesn't seem like she even had a boyfriend.
Right.
And then when Mr. Welden disappeared, it created this, this other air of mystery around it, because there were people in town saying that Mr. Welden had ordered food for 2 weeks and then went into the woods himself. What investigators confirmed was that he was in Fall River trying to track down his daughter.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think the Weldens had anything to do with it.
No.
I think they were heartbroken parents.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you think of the 1940s, you think of the first few moments of finding out that your daughter's gone missing, the odds that she's been abducted by a stranger are very slim. And you're probably hoping she ran away with a boy. And you're trying at that point to think, I'm going to preserve her reputation.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to name names, but let's hope that's what happened. And we're just going to. And he was probably devastated when him and Mrs. Welden kind of came to the conclusion of what was really going on. The same questions are asked about Herbert. Why did he join a search party the day of the inquest? And then why did he go off on his own? And why did he end up where her body was found?
That's
Herbert, I have more questions about. Like the Weldens, again, this is my unofficial opinion. Or the Weldens, I feel like they just were devastated and doing their best.
Herbert's suspicious.
Herbert,
period.
Logic would dictate that it was Herbert or Max.
Because who's reporting that Frida wanted to go on her own from there? He is.
Yeah, he is, exactly. I think it is possible, too, that it was an accident. I mean, people panic.
Yeah.
I think there's more there than
100%.
Because I forget who said it, but one of the sources I read said something like, so if we were to believe that the story, right, this would mean that Frida tripped, fell into a river, got wet, made her way home, and then fell into another river.
Yeah.
They were like, what are the odds that you're going to just fall into 2 rivers 100 feet from camp and you can't make it home? It just doesn't make sense.
No, he was involved in some way.
Either that or there's some other weirdo we're not considering.
Waxing bears.
And I say that because in the 60s, there were stories of a man living in these woods in a cave. He would come into town to expose himself to women.
Oh, no.
Apparently, he'd wave a pistol and his privates and then run back to his cave.
At the same time?
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
I guess. Oh, I think you only need one hand for the pistol. I don't think you need.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you probably just open your robe or your coat.
Ugh. Get a life.
I know. And then ran back to the cave.
People are so weird. Humans are fucking weird, man.
So today, people still claim to encounter
the pistol waving man.
The Bennington monster.
Oh.
No, he's gone.
Okay.
They hear sounds of women crying. They see lights in the sky. And there's a feeling, even by experienced hikers, that they are being swallowed up by the woods because fog and wind and weather will roll in and they'll get disoriented.
I'm good, bruh.
So you going to go there now that you're close? It's drivable.
Nope. There's plenty of other hikes nearby. Not going there.
So what do you think happened to all those? Because I know you're going to be like, it's not paranormal science.
It's not paranormal.
Here we go.
It's not even, that wasn't even leaning close to paranormal. It's people. People are always the problem, period. That's it. I mean, with Paula, She trusted someone she shouldn't have.
Yeah, I believe she was abducted. I think what her parents think is the most likely explanation. It makes the most sense. She got to the trailhead, turned around, got a ride, and that person abducted her.
Yeah.
Means that person got away with it.
And I think the same thing happened with the kid.
Yes, probably.
And then Herbert.
Yeah, Frida, I think something happened in those woods. I think he probably got injured
I think he probably
and fell somewhere where they couldn't
somewhere.
recover
Yep,
him.
exactly.
Because they, like I said, they said there were lots of wells and
Right.
like, old mines and things. And it'd be almost impossible to know where those are until it's too
Until
late.
you fall into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
this is all
James,
human.
I think he just got off the bus.
Yeah, right. It's like, I'll stop here.
That's all I think for that one. So, but, you and I differ on this. I absolutely think there is a vibe in certain places that you can't explain. If the Native Americans had stories on it, if all the settlers had stories on it, I just think, hey, maybe we don't go up there
Yeah.
and put a village. You know what I mean? Let's
Yeah.
just steer
For the
clear. Let the
best.
mountain do its thing.
Yeah.
And we'll just
the
stay away.
Matterhorn.
Excuse me?
That's what the Disney ride was called.
Oh, good. It took you 50
The
minutes.
snowman with the abominable.
Are you trying to say abominable?
Yes.
There it is.
He's in the middle of the ride and it's scary as red eyes. But I think that's set in Switzerland.
Don't you think there are some animals we haven't discovered in the world?
In the deep ocean, yes.
Yes, in the ocean for sure, but not in the forests.
Probably not in North America, but who knows?
Well, bear man.
It's bears. Bears.
Like you said, when you go on your weird little adventures, think of how easy it is to mistake something for a monster or something else because it's dark and you don't have there aren't street lamps and the light of your phone.
Exactly. Yeah, remember when I did that swamp hike? And
That's
it's
what I'm
like,
saying.
oh, there's a fucking goat monster in the swamp. And like, no, it was a heron, but it was just really big and it was in a tree.
Yeah, exactly. Was this before or after the termites swarmed you?
That was right after.
Perfect. You also had termites in your eyes. So.
Correct.
Yeah. I think it must have just been so scary.
Terrifying. I would not have survived.
What do you think the stagecoach was? I think that was Bigfoot.
Bigfoot is not a
You
thing.
hate it so much.
It's either a bear or a big guy.
A big guy.
Bears walk on their hind legs, and I bet you that happens more than we think.
It is scarier to think that there's just a big guy in the woods.
Correct. I'd much rather have a bear.
Just a big guy in the woods. Why is he in the woods? Again, it was probably dark. I doubt many of these things happened at noon.
Right, exactly. And like, yeah, you have maybe a torch or some shit.
Which casts weird shadows.
Yes, it makes things even scarier.
In every instance, I know they're all lumped together, but these are separate individuals who vanished and their families have no answers or no answer that brings closure.
Right.
It's like this air of mystery. And I think it must be really scary. Like Carl, who was crushed.
Yeah.
Think about how scary that is to not have that logical explanation as to what happened.
Yeah.
And to have to think that something scary is
out
in
there.
The woods.
Yeah. No, that sucks.
And killed your loved one. That is creepy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're never going to know what happened.
We're never going to know unless you could talk to dead people.
Yeah. And unless somebody wrote it in a diary and it's preserved somewhere in an attic, I guess is possible. But
I guess.
Anyway,
wow.
All right. Well, I'm not going to the Bennington Triangle anytime soon.
I'm not either.
But feel free to.
I'm disappointed
explore.
that it's 100 square miles instead of 100 square feet, though, because that would lessen the risk.
If it was 100 square feet, I might take a gander. I might poke my head in and look around.
No, because then it's like concentrated and you're like, you step in and like immediately your shin breaks or something like that.
Oh my gosh. You have to like run across it. Just streak across. Well, not streak. Keep your clothes on.
Oh.
Don't be like the gentleman from the 60s, please. Pistols and privates, lock them up. All right. All right. Well, we'll be back with more. I have some already in my holster ready to go. But thank you so much for listening. You can find us on all of the platforms at
Tea Time Crimes.
You can email us at
teatimecrimes@gmail.com.
Oh, and who should listen?
Bears. We love you. Men in the woods. Don't be scary.
It's a hard sell.
Vermonters, Mainers, Canadians, New Yorkers. What's the other state that
New Hampshire.
touches New Hampshire? New Hampshireans.
That's not right. That's all right. Keep going.
New Hampshireans. No, I'll give up there. And let's see, paranormals. Peoples.
Yeah, I want to hear all the paranormal people out there who want to fight with Alana. I want to hear your theories.
Let's fight.
Well,
I
don't
love
really fight,
fighting.
but I'd love to hear your theories or your own experiences, because there is some stuff that we can't explain. I don't care what you say. There's some stuff.
The dark.
Oh, jeez, here she goes. Well, whatever.
Let's hear it.
All right. Well, we've got more stories coming that you're gonna hate. So,
Great.
but the listeners should like. So, thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back next week. Bye bye.
Ta-ta.